Like many cities around the country, Boston's faced with a racial gap in opportunity, especially affecting young men of color. It's a challenge for the young men and boys, but also for educators, mentors, coaches, and people at community agencies. To help bridge the gap, our guest has been leading a series of events through the educational think tank, Boys of Boston EdCamp. We'd like to welcome its founder, who's also the proud principal of the Perkins Elementary School in South Boston, Craig Martin. Thank you very much for being with us, Craig.
Thank you.
I want to start with your own experiences growing up as a kid in New Orleans.
Yes.
How did you contend with this and bridge that gap?
Well, in growing up in New Orleans, Louisiana, as a Southerner, it is a pretty awesome experience to be a Southerner because you have Southern hospitality, and I actually had a Catholic upbringing, excuse me. So having both parents be present and be great models, but also pushing for us to be captivated by education, excel, do well, but also carry a spirit of resilience. It's very important that no matter what experiences we had, we didn't always have the finest things, but we had a roof over our head, two parents who worked incredibly hard and loved us, to the best of their ability, but that our main focus was education, and then being able to persevere when challenges came through.
Now, we usually hear about gaps, as racial gaps, but you're also dealing with boys as opposed to girls. What is it that boys have to contend with?
Boys have to contend with being boys at times, and just the perception of what does it mean to be a boy? And growing up to be a man, especially in America. So whether or not it's understanding gender norms, the responsibility to be not just a boy, but growing into a man that's going to be a partner, someone who is going to be a breadwinner, possibly an entrepreneur, or whether or not you're going to go through the college route, the career route. And so many other very fascinating aspects of who we are, but still knowing that some of it is still challenging to figure out.
Well, one of the things that I'm sure a lot of young people struggle with that you're talking about is that they grow up with a sense of what it's like to be human, what's normal, and then how that is different from their personal experience.
Yes. So I know for me in my experience, there were definitely times where I had, whether or not it was educators or just different members of the community who saw me differently. And I wasn't always embraced immediately as someone who has intelligence and capital and can contribute greatly to the world. They saw the hue in my skin and, they ran with a perception or a bias. But over time, some members of my experiential community really got the time to get to know me and didn't run with, he could be this because of the color of his skin, because he's African American, or he's taller, he has the stature, that they saw me as that entity. They got to find out there's a great human being who loves hard, works hard, and really wants to see the best in the community that we possibly can.
This is BNN News, and we're talking with Craig Martin from Boys of Boston EdCamp. Craig, explain how your EdCamp works, because you call it generically a think tank, but this isn't like a normal think tank where you have a few experts who will always tell the rest of us what to think. Right? So how does this work?
EdCamp is anyone and everyone is a great contributor to a continued conversation around what are the innovations that are happening, what are some of the resources that are available, what are some things that people are wrestling with, what are some big burning questions, and putting everyone in the same place at the same time to be able to wrestle with those things. So at EdCamps, you have an opportunity to integrate technology as a place to galvanize and capture what is happening and use that through social media, whether or not it's like LinkedIn or Twitter or Instagram or something like that, but be able to capture what are some of those great resources that you're utilizing, or what are some strategies you're using to engage with boys who may, have just become disenfranchised in education and are not as motivated. So what are you doing to engage them and motivate them? Or what are some programs in the community that help with social emotional learning, or getting kids who need an after school program? Where's that happening? And so the Ed Camp was a wonderful intersection where we could have really rich conversations around race, gender, and also innovation. And it's all happening at one place at one time. And anyone who's everyone, whether or not you're a parent, an educator, a community partner, all have an opportunity to dive into a conversation, share resources, share the wealth, and build and continue to bond.
It seems at first glance that breaking the ice about a kid's neighborhood life, family life, is a distraction from learning. But explain, how does this maybe enhance the learning?
I think you have to know who is the young person in front of you. You have to know who you're serving, because there's a richness to who that kid is, their character, what brings them to the table. They come to school every day, so what's the motivating force to have those kids coming? And I think that knowing who they are, what they bring to the table, their interest is a starting ground for something awesome. If a kid knows, especially boys, if we know that you really care and you are really invested, we will do any and everything we possibly can for you. But we have to know that you are absolutely an advocate for us. And that's the great power in some of this work, to learn that. So I actually have boys who were at the EdCamp as well. Some of my students also joined and share their own testimony and story to how important it was for them to just be present for something that was really more for adults and parents.
What did you learn from those young people?
I learned that they are appreciative that there are advocates and people out there who are really caring and invested. They got to see that there are so many people in the community, whether or not you're a football coach or you are a case manager, who are present and interested in figuring this thing out with them. And they appreciated having a place where they could share their views and perspectives and just be heard. So I heard that glaringly clear from them. And then they had an opportunity to jump into some a breakout, which is almost like an escape room, and really have a great time tackling a very tough puzzle, but figuring it out and also feeling super proud that they were able to get it and then share it with everyone.
What does this do for the adults? Because I imagine some of these adults are people, they've tried to work with kids and it hasn't always worked out for them, and they get demoralized by that. How do you help them with that?
I think continuing to have courageous conversations and putting them in touch with other people who are also having that same challenge. Sometimes some of the simplest solutions are the biggest wins for someone. So if you are looking at, I continue to encounter kids who are challenged by trauma. What are some things that you're doing to engage with kids who are facing trauma or impacted by trauma on a day-to-day basis? Sometimes it's about creating safe spaces where, whether or not it's meditation or mindfulness, or whether or not it is exercise and having a sports program, or whether or not it is just being able to have arts infused in your experience, that might be a place where kids can express themselves in a healthy way, and that's a starting place. And sometimes we forget as human beings that our kids are also human beings, and that they need healthy tools that they can use to engage or de-escalate and really find ground on a day-to-day basis.
And I guess they need somebody in leadership like yourself to tell them that that kind of thing is as important as anything that goes on academically.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. Our kids are multidimensional, and they have so many layers to them and so many parts to who they are. And we don't have the ability to just focus on one aspect of who they are. We have to focus on the whole kid who comes before us, or the whole scholar who comes before us. So you have to look at the relationships they build, their identity. You have to also build in time to look at academically, what are they working on and what are they working for, and consistently doing that work with a village. It's not just a teacher, it's not just a parent, it's a host of people who are really rallying to make sure that this one young person is okay.
And I have to go back to the way you run your school on a day-to-day basis, because yes, I saw your rules here. There are rules for teachers, there are rules for students, yes, and for parents too.
Yes. Yes. Quite simply, we have house rules. So house rules are: we start with a clean slate, we love one another, there's a second opportunity, a second chances. We are a space of second chances, that we persevere and we're resilient. And those are all core values that I believe, most families, many families, I would hope all families believe in. But those are some of the core expectations that we have our school community, and we consistently revisit them every day. And our kids because we reinforce that those are the rules and they are experiencing it, they're better for it and they're better people because they know we love them and we're going to love them through anything.
You refer to yourself as the proud principal. I assume that means you're proud of what the students are doing,
Yes.
but that's really raising the bar. How does that feel?
Oh, well, I can tell you, I could never do this work alone. I have a really wonderful staff. I have a wonderful set of parents and community partners who are super and deeply invested. And all of this work makes me proud because the kids that we serve are going to be so much better every day because of the work we do together. So yeah, I'm super proud of them.
Well, we should mention there's still a need for more ed camps down the line and other things that you can help with. So if people want to find out more about that, what's the best way for them to do that?
There's many ways. So the Brown Boys EdCamp.weebly.com is one way. You can email me as well. That's cmartin2@bostonpublicschools.org. And you can also call the school as well. We're at the Michael J. Perkins School.
Okay, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Craig Martin from Brown Boys of Boston EdCamp.